This is Daniel Smith from Jets Guru. Welcome to the show. All gas, no brakes. Let's go, Jets.
Let's make sure we play like the New York Jets.
All gas, no brake.
Can't wait.
Long story short, the Jets are going to the Super Bowl. That's a promise.
Place your bets now, people!
What's going on, Jets Nation? CJ the Painkiller D. Simone here, and you are watching Jets Guru. Now, give it up for your host, Mr. Daniel Smith.
That's my name. Don't wear it out, Daddy. Let's go. Jets Guru in the house. What is up, everybody? What a long day it's been. My gosh, never-ending day today. But that is okay because we're going to power through. We're fueled up because NFL football is just around the corner. That means our fantasy football is going to be popping. That means our bets are going to be popping. We're going to be setting up our parlays. We're going to be sitting down watching the Jets win football games for the first time in a long time. And no, I'm not jinxing that. I am stepping into the truth now. It is our time as New York Jet fans to watch this team succeed. It has been a very, very long time. I was a young man last time the Jets were good. I am now old, a very old man. And it's not fair. We deserve it. They're laughing at us. The NFL is laughing at us, and I am here to tell you it stops now. The New York Jets are going to win more football games than they lose. That I can guarantee you. I can't guarantee you anything else. I'm not going Super Bowl and all this nonsense because honestly, other than Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, when you look at every team to start the season with, by the end of the year, it's like three new playoff teams and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, you see a lot of the same teams usually, but there's injuries involved. We've seen it and we know it firsthand. So for me, I'm not going to start talking that kind of stuff until midseason and we see where this team is at and where the injuries are. But what I can guarantee is that if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy this year, the Jets will win more games than they lose. And they're going to look good sometimes. And they're going to look great sometimes. And they're going to look like that more times than they look bad, I believe, in my personal opinion. When I look at this team over the last 2 years and what they've been able to do defensively and running the football and bringing one of the premier talents from college and turning him into the rookie of the year with Zach Wilson and company, I have no doubts in my mind when you sprinkle in a little Mike Williams in there and a plethora of young running backs that could do different things and a Hall of Fame left tackle and bringing back another guy, another solid right tackle in Moses. I mean, for me personally, it's all about injuries with this team, period. Because I saw under some of the worst quarterback conditions, under some of the worst health conditions, because over the last 2 years, the Jets' offensive line has been brutalized by health. I mean, we lost one of our best offensive linemen in back-to-back years in an AVT. We lost Breece Hall, our stud running back. I mean, we've seen these things happen to us, but it's been injury that's held the Jets back. If you really think about it, it hasn't necessarily been the construction of the football team. It's mostly been the injuries. The injuries hamper this franchise so much. How many seasons have been wasted where we've seen the starting quarterback just completely fall apart. Like, I mean, the team just completely fall apart after the starting quarterback gets hurt. I mean, I've seen it at least 4 times in my lifetime where a starting quarterback that was supposed to be our guy was hurt or punched in the face or tore an ACL or didn't show up to whatever it might be. 4 or 5 times. I mean, Pennington I've seen go down, Sanchez go down. I mean, it's endless. Testaverde in an important year coming off an AFC Championship game. Aaron Rodgers coming off ushering the Jets, which we thought, into a new era of playoff football that we haven't seen since Rex Ryan. Gone. Geno Smith, punch in the face, gone. I mean, it's just never ending for the franchise. So for when I look at this, I don't see too many holes, and we'll go over the roster. We'll go over the 53. But for me, as a New York Jet fan, I am very happy with the construction of this roster, so much so that this is one of the first times in my lifetime that there are players that the Jets let go that I'm like, man, in previous years, they would have had some pretty significant value. And the Jets picked up a lot of guys who I thought would be gone, because I believe that now that especially on defense, they know what they're looking for, man. They just really do. I think that Robert Saleh and company, with this playbook, with this style of play, this wide 9 defense, with the rotation that they have on the defensive line, I believe personally that they're just locked in. They know what they're looking for. They know what they need to complement the other guys and the other stars around them. And it just seems like they're locked in and they just know how to construct this defense. Like, this isn't a fluke anymore. When you have back-to-back subpar seasons offensively, where you're one of the worst in the league, mind you, let's say that, the last 2 years, and somehow your defense finds a way to be in the top 10 and even better than that, that's telling me something. When Breece Hall could still do what he did, considering the quarterback and the injuries on the offensive line, that's telling me something. Garrett Wilson, that's telling me something. Something that Mr. Kennedy brought up 2-3 weeks ago when we had our last show, about when you look at Conklin and how he just wasn't used really, how Conklin should be used. I mean, and you still saw him flash at times when he was actually used. I think when you look at the opportunity that the Jets have this year for special teams, Greg Zuerlein has a chance to be a player in fantasy again, because even if Aaron Rodgers doesn't get us touchdowns every time the New York Jets touch the ball, what we do have an opportunity to do every time, which you see with a lot of great quarterbacks, is to be able to just capture a couple of first downs. Hey, man, 3-4 first downs could get you in field goal range depending on the plays. 2 first downs. Give me something. There's been plenty of times where I've seen the Jets go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. You're not helping anybody. And though I love our punter, he's one of my favorite players on the New York Jets, I don't want to see him that often. I'd rather see Zuerlein setting up for a field goal kick. And I have that much confidence in my defense that I can push Zuerlein a little bit this year. And I could we got to stretch him out, baby. Hey, we're going to stretch him out, Scotty. And it's preseason. I don't want to hear nothing about that. They're stretching him out. He's an old man. He'll be ready. He'll be ready to go. He's a professional. I can't see him falling off like that. There weren't a lot of indications to me that he would fall off like that. So you miss some, that happens. They're kickers. It happens, But I think once the season gets started, we'll see a very, very good controlled football team. I think we'll see a special teams that'll set our offense up. And I'm not afraid as a fan of the Jets maybe going after it a little bit this year. Like, I know our identity is going to be running the football. I think the Jets have made a point with this roster here that they are going to be a running football team too. But remember what playbook we're working with here and who the players are that orchestrate the playbook. This is still Aaron Rodgers' show, regardless of what we think about this running back room. And I think the first couple of games is going to determine and show us what type of football team the New York Jets are going to be. For me personally, I think it should be a balanced mix. And I think most people would probably say that too, where Breece is touching the football probably 20 times a game in some kind of fashion, maybe not all in carries, maybe a couple dumps and swings here and there, but I'd like to see Breece touch the ball at least 20 times. In reality, there's a good chance that Breece is probably going to touch the ball, I don't know, maybe 15 to 18 times. There's a lot of weapons for the Jets to be able to throw this football. And when you look at this roster and the way it's constructed, for me, let's go through it. Let's just start. We're here, right? Let's get it going. It's just us, nobody else here this week. Once again, solo. So hey, let's get into it. As we know, Jordan Travis is out right now. He's a long-term project for the New York Jets, so he's not going to factor in to this year. And I know a lot of people were excited, including myself, about some of the potential. A lot of potential in guys like Martinez and Peasley. In the first game, they did show that, but with the extended play, we started to see some of the issues, right? And the Jets weren't going to keep three quarterbacks on the roster, and I understand that. But I wanted them to identify another guy other than Travis that they could kind of work with, and a guy that's active right now who could play, behind the scenes, on the practice squad, so to speak. And maybe you might have something along the way. We've seen how devastating losing the quarterback could be for the New York Jets. And to me, it's worth it to invest that. Now, I'm trying to coordinate which practice squad signings are actually legit and which ones aren't. So please bear with me here. I'm only going based off the information that I could grab, which is pretty much the same information that you guys can grab. Nothing special here with that. But from what I've seen from the New York Jets signings is that Adrian Martinez was brought back to the practice squad, which I think was a good move for the Jets. If that's the case, source. But if it's official, that's great. What I saw him do, there's a couple of plays where he used his brain in ways that you would see a third or fourth year quarterback use their brain. He's got a nice physical package to go ahead and run on the outside. I mean, he's got legs, he's got footwork. I mean, he could throw the football. He made some tight throws in that preseason. This is a guy that's new to the NFL. Not new to football, but new to the NFL. Let him get his feet wet a little bit. Get on the practice squad. You never know. You might have a future backup quarterback on your roster for a team that has struggled to find any type of, we needed just a backup quarterback last year and we would have made the playoffs. We couldn't even get that. So if we could somehow get a bunch of arms in here that could develop over time, even as a second, a backup quarterback, Tyrod Taylor retires. If Martinez in 2 years, let's say, could be ready to be a backup, what's the harm in that? I love that. I love that storyline for the Jets that have suffered from, lack of quarterback play their entire existence. And then all of a sudden get themselves a legend, a solid backup in Taylor, a prospect in Jordan Travis that they could build on, and maybe even a backup quarterback that they could build on as well. So you don't want to spend too much time here since we're just doing the roster on Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor. Obviously, those are the two quarterbacks that we figured would be the 1-2 for the Jets. Tyrod gets hurt a lot too as a backup, which worries me a little bit, but we shouldn't have to worry if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, right? So, for me, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, Israel Abanikanda. Wow, what a unit, huh? That's what gets me really excited. That's probably my favorite unit on the Jets 53-man roster is that running back unit. There's so much potential from that unit. The things that they could do, it's really fun, man. I mean, Breece Hall is a kind of, he could do it all. He's the back that could do it all. But you don't want to break him down. You want to save him for later on in the year. That's okay, because you could put that tank in Braylon Allen in the game, and this guy is going to run you over. He's going to put it on you. He's the type of guy, for me personally, that you need in late in the season when the weather is cold and you're on the goal line or you're trying to protect the lead, and you just grind with this young kid. You know, a lot of Jets players have already come out and said, like, no one wants to touch this kid. Imagine downhill in bad weather and you're losing and you're behind. Like, this kid's going to eat up. He's going to get some yards, okay? I'm super excited about that. But do not sleep, and I'm being dead serious about this, do not sleep on Isaiah Davis. Like, the Jets really like him. They like him so much, they kept him, right? He's the third back on this roster. Anyone goes down, he's elevated to significantly more carries, especially because Braylon Allen isn't an established back. So the fact that he's not an established back means that if Breece Hall was to go down, Davis could go from 3 to 1 at any moment, because if he shows the hot hand, the Jets will go with him. So it's a great opportunity for any of these backs to be on the roster, because Breece has already been hurt before. Running backs get hurt all the time. And this isn't just from the number one spot. You know, Izzy could go from 4 to 2, right? If there's injuries or if he happens to show, right? So this is, you know, I believe it's the best unit that the Jets have collectively. I think it's better than the quarterback unit. I think it's better than the wide receiver unit. Maybe, because the receiver unit is more accomplished than the running back unit. But the way that the running back unit fits together and what each guy could do differently and how it gives them a lot of flexibility to call plays and do different things, I like it better. But the wide receiver unit is a little bit, there's more production. And if they stay healthy, they could be an all-star unit. Like, you're talking about Mike Williams. You could have 2,000-yard receivers on that roster with a Malachi Corley, you know, having 700 yards or something like that. You know, you could have a really studded unit. And then when you throw the tight end if you just want to say pass catchers at that point, I think Conklin is going to have an absolutely huge year. He was not used properly, and when he did, he showed. And for me, that is also going to be another thing. But as far as fit and style for what the team needs, yeah, I think it's definitely better, because honestly, like, I don't see where, like I don't see Irvin Charles making a big splash here. You know, you know, I mean, Xavier Gibson is nice, but this is about Mike Williams. You know, this is about Garrett Wilson. Will Lazard show now that Aaron Rodgers is here? I mean, if Lazard shows, then with a Curley stepping up, you could have a formidable unit for sure. Lazard definitely looked better in camp than he did last year. You know, it's kind of like, I guess if you come somewhere and you play well with a quarterback and all of a sudden that quarterback's gone, I think there would be a natural regression in that. So now that your quarterback is back, if he's performing at a high rate or back to what he was, you should see Lazard take a step up. If not, then that is the downtick in the receiver now that the X factor is back and is in play. So for me, yeah, man, that running back unit is crazy. And even Izzy turned it on towards the end there, man. Like, you know, when camp started, he was the odd man out, right? Like, he was the odd man out of the running back group. He was definitely getting cut. And like, he showed, you know, and good for him, you know. And I mean, these running backs are going to be really, really important to this team. You know, I mean, really important to this team. I mean, Isaiah Davis is, you know, he's a kick returner. He's opposite Gibson. And if anything happens to Gibson, he's your starting returner, kick and punt. And he's also your third running back. So if anything happens to you, both of your starters per se, you know, then he's all of a sudden the number 2 back on your roster. I mean, so all of these young guys have roles to play for this running back unit. And I'm super excited. Tight end, Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert, Brendan Bates was just signed. Kenny Yeboah is on injured reserve. I mean, again, I think Conklin's going to have a stellar year. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw him in probably the 5 to 7 range in yards, and 100 in yards, probably 4 or 5 touchdowns, something like that. I think he can have a really, really big year for the Jets. And he could be a security blanket for Aaron Rodgers, for sure. I mean, if you look around the roster, if everyone stays healthy coming out of the gates, there's a lot of options to feed the ball. It's going to be really hard for defenses to really pick the Jets apart, because even down to their third and fourth offensive weapon, there is value there for Rodgers to use. I mean, Rodgers has turned players into fantasy saviors for a lot of guys. And the reason is because he's going to place the ball. These are all professionals. He's going to place the ball where it needs to be, and he's going to make the better decision more times than not. And that's going to put players in a better position to catch the football and to make better plays. And so I expect a lot from this Jets offensive unit. And I think playing against the Jets defensive unit every day in practice, I think that's going to pay dividends. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has already come out and said, I mean, right, that this has been one of the hardest camps that he's been in quite a bit of time. I mean, I think that's kind of important that Robert Saleh did that. You know, like, he didn't want them coming in here, all right, Rodgers is back, we expect to do it. Like, no, man. Like, he wanted to push them and let them know that, like, there's work to be done. This is an important year. Like, we spoke about it on Jets Guru. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we spoke about it, like, over and over and over again. We do not need a new GM, and we do not need a new head coach. At some point, we're going to have to slow this whole getting rid of everybody out of town thing, because if they do that and Rodgers retires, and there's going to be a lot of players asking for trades and players not resigning, and then start from ground zero again. We don't need all that. This is not what this team needs. We have plenty of young talent. We have everything we possibly need to succeed. We just need to stay healthy and execute it. And if we could do that this year, we could get extensions for these guys. We could start to build something. That's what we want as fans. We want to build something. We don't want a new flashy coach in here changing up the players and how they play, changing up how the reps and how they do things, changing up how this defense does something. Like, imagine Robert Saleh gets fired because the Jets don't do well, but the defense is still in the top 5, and then he's gone and some schmo comes in who does something else, and then all of a sudden you don't have that defense. So yeah, maybe your offense is a little better now, but now your defense is a little worse, and then you're still floating around 8 wins. And you're like, whoa, what do we do this for? And now players don't want to be there. And now it's like, guys, at some point, you know, I want to see it through. But this is a results league, and we get it. So you got to come out and win. I think it's going to be this year. I really think it's going to be this year. So going back through the roster, and I mean, just looking at it, I mean, Tyron Smith, I'm excited about. You know what I'm really excited about? Everyone is starting the year healthy on the offensive line. Like, I mean, you know, besides the questionable stuff, right? Like, aren't you excited about that? Like, man, like, every year we're waiting for an offensive lineman to come back at the last second, you know, and it's like, we got a starting unit, man. Smith, Simpson, Tittman, Barrett Tucker, Moses, you know? And like, when is the last time we could say we've had an uninjured top 10 pick at left tackle who's sitting on the bench to start the year? Unbelievable. Unbelievable depth this year from that position. In my personal opinion, guys, seriously. And he gets to sit and learn from a Hall of Famer, right? And you keep him out risk. We keep you if Smith stays healthy, then this young guy gets to learn and get a little taste, and with no risk, because he doesn't have to play. It's great. I love that. I love that for the Jets. That's amazing, right? And if Smith is out, then you could put Fashanu in, and all of a sudden you have another starting quality tackle ready to go. Ready to go. And then we got Max Mitchell, who's played extended time with the Jets. He's been in the system a while. Wes Schweitzer, Newman. You know, it's not a bad unit. Carter Warren, they're high on him. He's been in the building a minute. Like, I like this unit. Like, they just have to stay healthy, and they have a place here. You know, everyone plays their roles, you know, and if everything goes according to plan, we've seen, like we talk about Baltimore and how they bring their guys up, let guys go, keep the cap in a certain way so you can go out and get players that you need, impactful players at positions you need now, and not have to wiggle and trade and do all this kind of stuff just to get those guys in and getting that cap right. Like, it's just, oh my gosh. I just, Jets have to get it right this year. This is it, man. This is a huge year. I can't even tell you how big this year is for the Jets. I mean, if the Jets fail this year, it is going to set this franchise back quite a bit of time. And we don't have time for that. I'm getting old. So we need the Jets to win this year. So wins, so we could see this depth really grow. We're starting to see it now. The Jets are starting to get packed with talent. Like, we're already seeing guys and we're getting rid of guys where you're like, I didn't really want to get rid of him, or like, I felt like he had a place here. You're going to see a lot more of that if the Jets continue to win and they allow these coaches to stay in place and grow together and get these young players who are talented excited, right? Expectations. What are the expectations here? Well, the expectations are for the Jets to win, to get to the playoffs, to win a playoff game, to push to get to an AFC championship game. One step at a time, right? If you could win your division, even better, great, but just get in the playoffs, break this long streak, make Jeff, like, I would love to see a playoff game. Get a playoff game for your team, right? For your fans, right? So that they get excited going into next year to justify your raise again in season ticket prices that, talk about expectations, I expect to rise again. Well, if you're going to keep rising these prices, eventually you're going to have to give us something in return, right? People can't afford to keep doing this. I already know friends and family who just don't go to the games anymore, and people who were season ticket holders that just can't do it anymore because of the prices. And I was caught by surprise, or I wasn't going to do it anymore, but I got locked in. So hoping for the best, right? Because last year was a disaster. I got no value out of my tickets. The offense was terrible to watch. And, fans, they're not going to keep sitting and watching that to come watch defensive football. And that's why I was saying earlier, I wouldn't mind if the Jets kind of transition. Like, I don't want to see Breece Hall, Allen, run, pass. No, like, I want to see the Jets attack finally. I mean, Joe Douglas, he talked about this a couple of years ago when people were hounding him about why they didn't sign Robbie Anderson. It took him forever to finally come out and say, we were going after Tyreek, we wanted to reach out to Robbie, we wanted to do these things. We want to be an explosive offense. Like Joe said that. We want to be in an explosive offense. You do not get Aaron Rodgers to hand off the ball. And I'm just letting people know that unless Aaron is compromised and you have a situation like Peyton Manning, where you kind of like using him for tough moments, more for accuracy, getting the ball out quickly, but not expecting the big throws present anymore, the tight windows anymore. But I don't think that's the case here. I think Aaron has showed a lot of zip on that football in camp, in intra-squad type of things. And so I don't think that's going to be an issue whatsoever for him, at least this year. So I'm super excited about this football team. Like the expectations for Aaron Rodgers, I mean, this is potentially life-changing for him. If he's able to win with the Jets, it changes his legacy. But he has to win, not necessarily a Super Bowl. But if Aaron Rodgers, let's say, gets to an AFC championship game or gets to a Super Bowl but doesn't win, it completely changes the outlook, because the Jets haven't had much success. So to have a guy come in there and pull them out of that the first year coming off ACL injury, I mean, I think that's huge to his standing, including if he was to get to that mark, then he would be playing at a high level, adding to those statistics. And I think that if I think it's more important this year than any, especially because Aaron's first year playing a full season, hopefully, or mostly a full season. When you look at that, that's going to fuel him to continue on if he does well. If we could get 3 seasons of like a very good Aaron Rodgers where, 2-to-1 ratio, TD to turnovers, couple playoff wins, maybe a Super Bowl, just throwing it out there, whatever. I mean, completely changes this guy's career. It changes a lot of careers. Robert Saleh would then be a Super Bowl winning coach. That changes things. Looking at Joe Douglas, a Super Bowl winning GM, he would be highly responsible for putting this all together. And that changes his life. Fans, I mean, when's the last time we saw a Super Bowl? Joey, Joey Namath. Like, so I mean, Joseph, so it's been a while, man. And so this is because there's such a stark contrast that what we're capable of and what happens if we don't meet those expectations. This team is really yin and yang. Like, if one thing happens good, it can explode. But if one thing happens bad, it could explode in the complete other direction. And this team could look completely different next year and moving forward, losing a lot of young talent. And so, I mean, just such a high expectation year across the board for everyone. The owner's not getting any younger either. I know that he wants to win as well. So looking at the defense, going in, you have Jermaine Johnson, you have Javon Kinlaw, you have Quinnen Williams, and you would have Hassan Reddick, but he's out, and we don't know if we're going to see him. So most likely you'll see that rotation. Johnson, McDonald. You'll see Clemens in there in that rotation now, and he has an opportunity. The Jets hung on to some guys, Taylor, McKinley, McGregor, like, to fill in the roster. Very high on these types of guys. Where do they fit in? For me, they fit in right away. I mean, we've already seen it in what Robert Saleh does in his rotations. Now, the young players, those guys, their opportunities aren't going to be as much. Robert really seems to tap into like who his players are and how they fit in his scheme, and he tailors it really a certain way. And you could see it even in Jermaine Johnson over the years, how the responsibility that was given to him in snaps and play and responsibility has kind of increased, and he's done it the right way, building the confidence of the player and also keeping the players fresh throughout the game. You have a guy like Will McDonald. Like, I don't want to see him out there all the time. Like, I want to see him in critical scenarios, and I want to see him on passing downs, because he's a slender, strong, wiry guy, and he needs full energy to go out and do what he needs to do. He doesn't need to be dragged out, fighting offensive linemen to go then tackle running backs. Like, I want him beating offensive linemen with his speed and agility and then tackling quarterbacks. That is a way better scenario for McDonald. And so I like the rotations. I like the freshness, keeping these guys ready to go. It just changes the game late third, late fourth quarter, when you're grinding it out and like you really need to make stops and different things like that. All this has a place, like, energy levels. Do you want it the most? Like these types of things, really, really important. But yeah, you have Javon Kinlaw. He showed out. People have been talking about him a lot in camp. They're really excited. He had his best year as a pro in Robert's system. I expect to see either his best or his second best, year as a pro with the Jets under this system. There's a fire lit under him. New start, new beginning. Knows the system, knows the way. It's a lot easier of a transition, so he could play a lot more free. See, guys like that, and that's what, people don't understand. A guy like Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets and having his offensive coordinator, it just makes it so much easier. Like the translation and the wording, what you want to do, it makes it easier to teach, because you have two heavy components coming together that both know what they're doing. Like, these things matter, man. Like we don't talk about that kind of stuff enough when we talk about football. We talk X's and O's, we talk physical attributes, but these types of things matter. They really do. You have CJ Mosley, you have Quincy Williams, and you have Jermaine Sherwood. After Quincy and after Mosley, it gets a little scary at the linebacker position. You have one injury in Mosley, and Chaz Surratt's your starting middle linebacker in rotation. It's just like, it gets a little scary. But again, it is very, very hard to fill every hole, even on Super Bowl teams. And that's why you have supposedly a great quarterback, right? A great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers that could make up for some of these deficiencies, where if the Jets give up an extra touchdown or some extra yards here and there, Aaron is supposed to make up for these things. And if your defense is already great, he doesn't have to make up for it as much, which takes some pressure off of Aaron in the offense and allows him to play free. This is essentially what we would want the team to be able to do. Sauce Gardner, you know what it is. Chuck Clark is back, which I love. Tony Adams, which I love. DJ Reed. I mean, this Brandon Eccles, Ashton Davis, Isaiah Oliver, Quantez Stiggers, who they're really big on. Michael Carter the third. I mean the second. I mean, yeah, the third, the second. Sorry, the second. Yes, the second. Michael Carter the second. Sorry. I mean, this is an elite unit. There's hands down. This is an elite Jets defensive unit. We've seen it for the last 2 years. I think it stays. They're going to get even more comfortable in the playbook. You saw the defensive coordinator be able to finally dial up blitzes this year and get comfortable with the play style. I think everyone's really ready to pop off. The only other thing I want to see is Hassan Reddick just show up, and then it's going to be even extra icing on the top if that's the case. Some people think that's why the Jets held on to some of those linemen, but I don't think they were making decisions like that. I think they actually liked what they saw, and there was a hole to fill, and so they went in that route. If you know and you realize and you know talent, and where that talent fits on your team, and you realize they're not going to clear waivers to get on the practice squad. I need to get this guy now. I need to keep him on the roster now. I think the Jets were smart. I think this is a good, smart roster put together. I think this is the roster that we should have had last year for this year. Backup quarterback, multiple running back options, left tackle, or some kind of dynamic lineman who's learning, not necessarily pushed into the front. I honestly do believe this. I really, truly believe that this team is ready to take that next step. And I'm so excited to watch with you guys, to do this with you guys. It's been a long run of bad seasons in trying to keep you guys invested in the New York Jets. I hope that I've done a good enough job to keep you entertained, but I think those times are over and it's coming to an end. And I think that the Jets will entertain you on their own, and we'll just be here to celebrate and to talk about the victories and have fun and really dive in to a really great Jets season. I love the schedule. I love how it's set up for this team. Everything is in place. Just keep these guys healthy and just believe, man. Just believe in the possibilities of success. Not everything has to be negative. Not everything has to be losing. It's been that way, but I think the team has done a lot to improve and make itself into a potential winner. And they have all the keys and the tools to do it. So as fans, seeing that they have all these keys and tools, let's meet the team halfway and be really, really excited about this season and the possibilities, not the end possibilities, like what they could do on the field each Sunday, like the possibilities of this team being a great defense, the possibilities of this team being a great offense, the individual talent that's going to be displayed on the field. I think each and every Sunday, I think that is more important than what happens at the end. Like that should not be our focus. Our focus should be like, man, we're playing the 49ers. Like what could we do in that game to start to assert our dominance from game one? Like, will the Jets set the tone? Like, will they be a team that is hard to beat, not just in the AFC, but across the league? Like, these things are all storylines that I think we should latch on to and not the negative. So listen, guys, I appreciate the support. I really do. It's amazing. We're going to be full squad more often than not coming in the season. But I need you to share the page, man. Hey, do it. Share it, man. Get out there. I hook you up. You hook me up, man. Hit those shares. Let's go. Jets Guru in the house. I appreciate the support. JR with the great graphics. I mean, look at this stuff, man. Like, listen, you can't have him. He's part of the Jets Guru team. You're going to have to pay him if you want him to run your pages now, right? This is a hustler's world. Pay my boy if you're going to go ahead and use the services. We got a lot of people behind the scenes, that are doing things for us. I mean, Victor's out here. He's trying to get our page back behind the scenes because we don't have full access to our page, unfortunately, which makes it really difficult to do certain things. And so for me, I'm just really excited that someone's invested enough to help us to try to get this page back. And he does a lot of the sharing to the pages behind the scene. And most likely at some point will show his face and be talking with us, as we move forward. Andrew, he does the same thing as well. And then, we got Tyrus, who's our main guest on the show. And he will be more present as the season goes on. And I had a lot of positive feedback about having him on. I think the show flowed really well. having Tyrus on the show, and I think we complimented each other well for the page, and so we're going to be seeing a lot more of him for sure. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We are so close to having NFL football. I'm so excited. We will see you next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Jets Guru in the house. Peace.
What you know about rolling down in the down in the
Now I know y'all be loving this shit right here.